Welcome back to another edition of the Gabagools Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff. I think we're on episode 24 or 25. I think it might be 25. Either way, with me today are the man, the myth, the legend, Richie Forbags. How we feeling?
Feeling good. That deal's coming any one of these days now, Jeffrey. I'm telling you, episode 25, we're pumping.
Yeah. I mean, it's consistency is key always. But yeah, feeling good. It's a hot August day, as Dan would say. Weather's a little humid today, so I had to get out early, take a little walk ski with the family, and keep it
It's like a
rolling.
prime 95 here as well in Colorado. So
Well, it's the humidity for here that sucks because like all the
that's Jeff. I'm
mosquitoes.
telling you, that's so nice about Colorado is none of that humidity bullshit. So it makes it a little more tolerable, but heat's heat.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we have to mention since we're having a football podcast, the fact that we're both rocking the Caleb Williams jersey. Gotta love
It's
that.
time. It's time, Jeffrey. And I know you're a Jets fan, and I get it.
Yeah.
You
I was
have
just
good
about to
things coming. You have
preface.
good things coming your way. Don't you worry. That bad man is back. All right, and
Yeah.
he's with a vengeance. But
Yeah.
we have a new era, right? You got a year or two. We have a
I'm fine
whole
with it.
fucking era that is coming, and it's very exciting. Talked about it many times before. But yeah, I just I can't hide my enthusiasm for what we're about to see because it's going to be one of the greatest things that Bears fans have ever laid witness to, and probably like we're talking like the 40 to 50 to 60-year-old people. It's going to be one of the greatest things that they've ever seen since like the 1985 Bears. And this will be the best Chicago Bears offense that we've ever put on the field in our entire history of our fucking franchise. Now let's think about that. Caleb's going to throw for 4,000, which is going to be the first fucking quarterback to ever do that. He's immediately going to break every QB record by like year 3. This is going to be good.
Do me a favor, write that down on a Post-it note because we don't have Dan here, our notary. We need that on a Post-it note, and we need to like use that as bulletin board material right there, so we remembered on August 4th that we said 4,000.
This proclamation has been made.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I fully believe that it's going to happen too. Like that's what the Bears surrounded him with. It would be hard not to fall into at least 3,000 passing.
Is this not the greatest situation that a rookie quarterback, has ever walked into ever? I can't think of a time.
Are we talking just like first round pick, or are we talking in general? Because I have two guys that I can come to mind.
First round pick, like top tier talent. It's like they typically the number one pick is never getting put on a team with this much firepower ever. It's never happened in my opinion. When I think back to it, because typically, that number one pick means that the team is ass. Now, granted, our team was ass last year, but that's because Poles, made these correct moves and sending that first round that 1-1 last year to Carolina, and now has just set us up with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert as a fucking backup, Cole Kmet. I mean, this is just one of the like.
Tyreek Stevenson was part of that draft class too.
That's right, second round pick. I think.
So I think it was like second.
So actually, what I think about now that we're talking about it, the correlation I can make would be Baker Mayfield when he had, and I think when he got drafted when he went to the Browns in 2018. He got Odell, he got Jarvis, he had Nick Chubb, he had Kareem Hunt, and he had Njoku. And I remember at the time saying, holy shit, you can't get much more.
Right.
And then we know how that panned out. My God.
Yeah.
So, one can only hope that doesn't happen. I don't think that'll happen. But in terms of offensive talent.
Yeah, and based off of what we've seen, because we're USC fans, so obviously that's why I have the jersey too. The little hope here that we have that he brings the light back on USC for, QBs, because we've had enough in recent history, going back to Palmer, Liner, John David Booty, Mark Sanchez, Cody Kessler, a lot of those guys, Sam Darnold too, if I didn't say him, a lot of these guys are ultra talented, but they ended up in shitty situations such as, Sam Darnold. But I think
Darnold's a prime example. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if he does start over McCarthy, which is going to be tough because McCarthy's having a lights out camp. I think you're going to see like Darnold really take that next step forward on a good team. But getting back to what you were saying about Caleb, he's the most talented QB that the Bears have ever seen. Not just not a Justin Fields where he was basically, I hate to say it, sorry Justin, but a glorified running back, and he's going to go tear it up with Pittsburgh because it's a better system, had a coach, had people around him. But
he just didn't make reads correctly. Like, no, that's really what the issue was. He just didn't read a defense.
How many screenshots did I see on Twitter where it's like they showed the entire field?
Those are the bad ones. Yeah, it's like you cannot be missing guys who are literally standing on an island by themselves. And one of the biggest people that was like doing that was Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney gets open,
and he missed him by how many times?
So many.
Well. He's going to do well in Atlanta, I think, too, just because he's got Kirk.
I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up.
I'll say that for a podcast a little bit later. But on this podcast, obviously, we're not going to just talk about Caleb Williams, even though there's a lot of excitement about him, and we're about 5 weeks till Red Zone kicks off, so football is officially back. We had the Hall of Fame game last Thursday. I didn't watch a lick of it because Caleb didn't play, so I didn't really care. I know Colin Johnson. I think he played at Texas. He was that one big ass wide receiver.
Yes, he's the 6'6" receiver from Texas. I think he had 1 tutty or 2 tutties, but I didn't even know we picked him up. No. So that's a nice little addition.
It's a dart throw.
Yeah,
I like those. Are my favorite picks. But we are going to talk about wide receiver sleepers, breakouts, and busts because we have to get this done before the season starts. Don't want to wait until the last one. Figuring we got some AFC. I'd like to go by the divisions eventually at some point and kind of break down what our picks for the division are. But going back on track, we're also throwing tight ends in there as well because that's kind of a shorter topic just because there's so many good quality ones. But jumping into wide receivers. So from a dynasty perspective, obviously when you're drafting, one of the key spots outside, and it depends on if it's a super flex league or not, but one of the spots that you need to build around is your wide receiver core. They're the most consistent. They will be out on the field. They don't take the hits that the running backs do. They're more consistent than tight ends, and they can put up a boatload of points.
If anybody's ever wondering why that they get paid and running backs don't, it is that exact explanation right there.
Exactly. And I don't think that'll ever change either.
No,
I don't think it'll ever change unless there's some sort of like, I'm trying to think of a good old running back that just like tore it up, that like consistent outside of like CMC. I can't think of anybody that would consistently. Maybe Bijan might be the next one coming up, but you're just not going to see these running backs get paid like that outside of probably Bijan, maybe Brees, and then Gibbs. Those are the only ones we're going to see really take that. But
yeah, it's because of Todd Gurley. But
yeah, Todd Gurley is your prototypical, but like he won so many people fantasy championships or put them in that spot to win.
Well, just talking in terms of contracts, though, like. Right. That's the reason why. It's the Zeke contract, it's the Todd Gurley contract, and like circa 17, 18. And then they gave him the $40+ million, and then they just kind of washed out, And so because of that, pretty much after that, NFL GMs were like, we'll start backups because of everything you're saying. It's like wide receivers are kind of going to be those. They have a really great impact on the game because of how, even when they don't have that ball, the route they run or the blocking they provide is a game changer on the offense. And the way NFL GMs see it is they see it as like, the running back is like, you run. And how many people can we get to just run and make cuts? Well, a lot of them. So
longevity is like the biggest thing too with like wide receivers is they're going to be on the field outside of the hamstring issues.
Yeah.
So moving into the topic at hand for fantasy football, we have some sleepers. So do you want to lead it off or do you want me to?
I mean, I could hit you. I'll hit you with 2 to lead it off. And you're going to appreciate, and this is going to be my number 1. I'm going to try to keep them in a little bit of an order. but I
Okay.
truly do believe this. In terms of sleepers, number one is going to be Mike Williams from the Jets.
Ooh, that's a good
Yeah,
one. That's
that
interesting.
is
Hit me
it's
with
going to
why.
be my. And so why? Well, I mean, look what he did when he was on the field with Herbert. He
Yeah.
did, he produced. He's a big body, jump ball. He gets those jump balls. He's a touchdown machine. Honestly,
Yeah.
he also unfortunately was a hamstring guy, and that's what kind of limited his ability. But I think now you put him across from GW, and then you have that bad man number 8 behind the fucking center. I'm thinking that he's going to be a real nice sleeper that nobody's really even thinking about. So Mike Williams is one,
Yeah.
and the second one
Absolutely.
I'm thinking is going to be Curtis Samuel on Buffalo.
Yeah.
With the
I like it.
departure of Diggs, there's going to get you got to replace that production. And now I understand that production is most likely going to go in the form of Kincaid catching 100+ balls and 1,000 yards. Um, but nonetheless, in terms of wide receivers, I believe Curtis Samuel, who also really great receiver. He just didn't really have, I'm not knocking Sam Howell by any means. But that the consistency of that Washington team just didn't
Right.
suit him very well. So those are two: Mike Williams, Curtis Samuel. What you got for me?
All right. I like the Mike Williams. I'm just going to give a little quick feedback on it. Mike Williams, that's a great one. I also do think because they brought in Malachi Corley in there, that's going to open up a little bit more for Mike Williams on those, those routes. And also, I think a lot of people sour on Mike Williams because they think he's a injury-prone player. And this was a hard selling point when I had him on my fantasy team was everybody thought he was hurt all the time. It seemed like he was, or he got hurt during the game. But when you go back and look at his games played, he barely missed any games outside of last year when he tore his ACL. But really like that pick. And then obviously having Curtis Samuel on my team this year too. I think with the upgrade at QB with Josh Allen, those targets are going to be there. I think a lot of people are going to suck the dick of Keon Coleman this year. I think he's going to be a great player, but I
Yes,
don't think the target share is going to be there. He's not going to rely on a rookie wide receiver when it's 3rd and 10 or whatever. He's going to go to Curtis
Kincaid.
Samuel,
Or,
Kincaid, and don't
right.
forget Knox too. Knox is going to get his. They made sure to come out and say whatever
Oh,
you
they
know what.
did.
Yeah, they're probably going to run a lot of two tight end sets, but I'm not really worried about that because still Kincaid is a more superior player.
It's like Aaron
Um,
Hernandez and Gronk. Anyway.
yeah, I mean less off the field issues, but yeah, I mean, both those are really great. So for my sleeper, the number one I'm going to do here, and he had an underwhelming year last year. He came out of the second, in my opinion, wide receiver U, and that is Jackson Smith Najigma from Seattle. He's kind of seemed to take like a step back in the Seattle offense. He didn't have that great year. I think he got banged up a little bit too. And Tyler Lockett still demanded a lot of those targets. We have to remember he was a rookie last year. He was still learning. And, say what we want about Geno Smith being a gunslinger. It's still Geno Smith. I do think he is going to take that step forward with him this year. I do expect the touchdown numbers to be there, and they're really going to make sure with the new coach, because it's not Pete Carroll anymore, that they get their rookie, their highly touted rookie, involved in the offense, and they're going to, we're going to see a different Seattle team this year, I think. And then my second, kind of my deep sleeper, is my boy out of UCF, Javon Baker from the New England Patriots. Everything that you've seen out of camp so far is leading everyone to believe that he's going to be the wide receiver one on that team that needs one. Yes, he was drafted, I think, in the 4th round, but
Yep.
he was a 4-star recruit. He had a 3.0 plus yards per route run at UCF, which is high, a 7.0 yak reception last year at UCF, and he's a 50% contested catch rate every season that he's played. Now, you might be thinking, okay, he's kind of a deep sleeper in fantasy drafts. He was going in the 4th round or undrafted. Rich, let's see if you know who is another player who went undrafted last year in most drafts and also burst on the scene.
Lord. And wide receiver?
Yes.
What team?
I was very high on him. Yep.
What
Plays on
team?
the West Coast. He plays on the Rams.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Puka Nacua. Very similar stats. Now, Puka was an ultra, like he was in the 99th percentile in, agility and just overall ability to be like an athletic wide receiver. Baker's not to that level, but I think we're going to have that breakout be, this year, similar breakout. Maybe not the, rookie of the year numbers, but we're going to be like, okay, Javon Baker, he's got Drake May, he's got Brissett, he's got or your boy Joe Milton. I'll have to add him in that. Whoever's throwing him the rock, he will have that. He's always wide open for targets because who else is on that team for wide receivers? And he's in the 88th percentile as well versus press coverage. So the numbers are going to speak for themselves because it doesn't just go away after college. So
right.
And those are my two for my sleepers. Any thought on that?
Definitely like him. I know you've been high on Javon Baker. I don't know. Rookies, the expectation, honestly, for him is that's kind of where it's nice, like 4th round pick.
Yeah.
You're coming into a situation where the team's been bad for the last couple of years, like a pretty low expectation probably on him, which in turn, like if he produces a very high, outcome or output this season, that'll really catapult his career. In terms of getting drafted, this is probably the best situation for Javon Baker. Like, you should be pretty happy about this. But overall, we like those sleepers.
Yeah, he made an awesome quote too. He said something along the lines about when he's on the field, he actually can he has the ability to make people in wheelchairs get up and walk or get up and clap.
Was that him?
Yeah, that was him.
I did see that. Like, was that last month? Maybe
it was either last month or like right after he got drafted. I'm like, all right,
yeah.
This guy's
insane.
I know. So I hope he backs it up for just because I have so many shares of him too. I think out of like 7 leagues, I have him in 4.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, late round picks. Most of the time, I don't have first or seconds anyway. You've played with me; those are usually gone really quickly.
They're gone.
Yeah. But moving into the breakout wide receivers for this year, who do you got?
Okay, I mean, so it's got to be like the number one guy. Oh, there's 2 now. There's 2 for breakout.
Yeah,
and it's got to be Drake London. Number 1. It's got to be Drake London. And if we have the same one, then I'll hit you with the second one.
No, go ahead. You can hit it.
It's got to be also Garrett Wilson because Garrett was primed last year to be top, probably a top 5 wide receiver in the league. He was primed. Everything was there. And then just the fall of, Rodgers, and then Zach Wilson obviously cannot throw a football. And that really hurt him. But I think now I said it last year and I'll say it again this year. Like, this is going to be his time for Garrett Wilson, and I really hope it is because like that he is really a specimen of a talent, and he needs to get utilized. And if they can open that up, and then Brees does what Brees does, and and increases his production, catches balls out of the backfield, the Jets, and said it last year, could be a Super Bowl team.
They very well could be, too. And they could be led by Garrett Wilson. And to throw some numbers your way, and also let's just play it like, who is Garrett Wilson had thrown to him? Zach Wilson, Mike White, Joe Flacco. Who was the guy last year that they had in there? Another shitty quarterback. He's only had 7 career touchdowns. But in his rookie season, he put up 83 receptions and 1,100 yards. That's not even with having Rodgers even in the picture.
Right.
Last year, he put up 95 receptions and 1,042 yards with only 3 touchdowns. Touchdowns will come this year with Rodgers, but even in that small sample size, he put up 1,000 yards with shitty QBs.
That's unreal. That's unreal for the circumstances.
1,500 yards easily. Because they're gonna be a very balanced offense, but there's no reason he can't go over at least that.
100 balls, 1,500 yards, 10 tutties. I can absolutely see it. And then Mike Williams on the other end. getting 70 balls, 800 yards, and 6 tutties. Like that offense can be on fucking real.
Yeah. And then moving into like the first guy you mentioned, who was also on my list too, is Drake London. He hasn't gone off for over 1,000 yards in a season, but that's another tale of the tape that he had shitty QBs throwing it to him.
Desmond fucking Ritter.
Desmond Ritter. Come on. Awful. He was decent with Taylor Heineke, but still, once again, not a good QB. They bring in Kirk Cousins, and if Kirk isn't ready to go, you got Michael Penix. He's going to sling the rock. Either way,
we know that
London is going to ascend, and he's going to. You know what's crazy too? He only had 2 touchdowns last year. I think he had like a 2-touchdown game, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame him. It's not his fault. That's for damn sure.
I mean,
USC represent, by the way.
What's up?
USC represent, by the way.
Absolutely. Wide receiver you. Because that's one of the guys too that I traded for in Gridiron, because I think he is going to take off this year. I think it's that 3rd-year breakout. I think he finally got that quarterback, regardless of who it is, out there to sling them the rock. So, numbers speak for themselves. He's good in contested catches. So hopefully, he does ascend. But my breakout is going to be George Pickens from Pittsburgh, because I had another one in the chamber when you took London. And I really did want to take GW as well, but I didn't want to be too much of a homer. But I really do think George Pickens, this is a year that he, kind of takes off as well, because he is that wide receiver 1 now. He is going to draw that attention from the DBs and maybe the safeties, but he has Russell Wilson throwing the ball or Justin Fields. You can only go up from there. When you had who the hell, Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, those guys were bums. So actually having relevant QBs, it's going to help.
Imagine picking Kenny Pickett in the fucking fantasy league, Jeffrey.
I've seen him go as high as pick 3 in a league when he was drafted. So it could get worse. But yeah, it's why you don't just draft for need. We say that. Put it on a t-shirt. Put it on a t-shirt.
When we hit it big.
Yeah, we have to. Going into it too. So my dark horse. So on the breakout discussion, we've had a lot of good wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb last year. If I had to pick a wide receiver 1 for this year who will finish that high, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
I think if he's on the field for 17 games, I think there's no reason he doesn't finish as the wide receiver 1.
I completely agree. I mean, I absolutely love the guy. Once again, USC. But what I am thinking, though, same team, is that man that they drafted from Alabama is going to start putting up some numbers too. That being Jameson Williams, 1st-round pick, maybe 13th overall. I think he's going to start getting in the mix now. Which might open up St. Brown a little bit, or if they're doubling St. Brown, then you throw that deep ball to Jameson Williams, and I promise you nobody's running with Jameson Williams.
That offense too this year, I mean, if JMO takes that next step, they already have Montgomery and Gibbs who are going to go off.
That's a ridiculous backfield. That's proved last year. That was unbelievable to have that tandem. And that, just all over Sam Laporta, that. Goddamn Detroit Lions! Let's talk about it. God,
they're gonna. They'll probably get the division. We'll touch on that when we talk on the divisions later. But that team is just like, you have so many weapons that Jared Goff can. They're gonna go as high as either Jared Goff lets him go, which is the Super Bowl, because he wasn't. He did make that appearance.
But
I think it falls on. Yeah, Dan Campbell. I think if he doesn't make that mental mistake against San Francisco, they beat him.
Sure. Yep.
So, you have a lot of talent. You have Amon-Ra. He did actually place a bet he bet Gibbs that either he will or he won't go off for 1,000 yards receiving and rushing.
So what he said was, he would buy him anything if he was able to get 1,000 yards receiving and rushing, which would it's never been done, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think it's come close. I think there's definitely been a lot of receivers that have had 700-800 yards receiving. I kind of want to say Kamara maybe being close to that, if not CMC, but nobody has ever tapped the 1K on both categories. And that would just be that would be a lot of touches. You need a lot of touches. So for that to happen, Montgomery would have to kind of take a back seat. And I don't know if there's enough, enough mouths. There's too many mouths to feed to make that happen.
Right. And yeah, I mean, it's possible, but I mean, that means that they're scoring 50 points a game, if we're being honest.
Which is also possible because their team is that fucking good.
Yeah. And, and they're going to, I mean, realistically, it's okay, you look at their division, the Packers are going to put up numbers. The Bears are going to put up some numbers with that offense as well. So, I mean, it's entirely possible, but I just kind of looked to see if there was anyone like Kamara or CMC, and nobody's touched 1,000 receiving.
Yeah.
So, that would be a hell of a. Oh wait, no, CMC did 2019.
And rushing.
Yeah, he went off for 1,300 yards rushing, and he had 1,000 in 2019. He had literally just 1,005 receiving. That's insane.
Because that team is so fucking terrible in 2019 that they just they're you're touching the ball every play.
He had 142 targets that year.
Oh! Dump, drop off, dump, Texas route, wheel route.
That's exactly why he didn't play for 2 fucking straight years.
Yeah, no shit. They ran his ass into the ground.
Yeah. Man. All right, but that's the running backs. That's I think if I'm going to put you on the spot with it. If you had to pick someone besides St. Brown, who would go off for wide receiver 1 this year? I have one guy that you should think of him right now. He's tied to Joey.
Yeah, I was gonna do it. I was gonna say Chase anyway, Jamar Chase. Yeah. Just because of last year being that kind of down year. Joey B's hurt. Everybody starts saying Joey B sucks. All this BS. Joey B's coming, bleached Joey B is coming back, and he's coming with a vengeance. And then also, I think because of that as well, a little sleeper you could even toss in there could be Jermaine Burton for sure.
Yep,
out of Alabama. If you haven't seen him play, go watch his highlights. He's nice.
Yeah, and then they also have that other cat too that they had. He was a rookie last year. Is I don't know how it starts with an I. I can't think of his name. Yeah. His first name's Andre. I know that, but Joey B talks highly of him too because they're going to start moving these guys in there because Higgins is gone. Higgins is pretty much dead to them. They're still going to throw him the rock, but they need to start.
We want another sleeper from the Bengals. How about Chase Brown?
Dude, I know he's getting a lot of talk in camp too. That kills. I don't know if you listened to the podcast last one I did with Dan, but when we did running backs, my breakout was going to be Zach Moss because of the similar how Joe Mixon got all those touchdowns because Joey B loves getting it to the 1 yard line and then handing it off. But we'll see. Chase Brown, 100% could. My only worry with him is his size, but that was a guy I think we mentioned too when we were breaking down the draft last year. That I wish I had more stock in him just because he is so electric.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we did some breakouts. We did sleepers. Let's touch on some busts for wide receivers. I'm going to lead it off, and don't kill me for saying it, but I'm going to say Keenan Allen. That's my bust.
I knew you were going to say it.
The only reason yeah, go ahead. You want me to talk?
What is the bust though? Is it because if he doesn't reach 100 balls, he had 113 receptions, best career year. So anything that's not better than a career year, is that automatically bust?
So we're talking fantasy wise, where people take the ADP. I think a lot of people are going to draft him a lot higher than he needs to go. I love Keenan Allen. He's actually one of my favorite players to watch because he does catch 1,000 balls a year. He does well, and it's not because he's going to get injured. I just think that there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, kind of similar to some other players we might mention later, where there's a lot out there. I actually think Rome also takes that step forward as a rookie. A lot of people, including myself, thought, okay, he gets drafted to the Bears. They already have DJ Moore. They have Keenan Allen. Does he fall in the similar to, JSN like last year, where it's okay, he has that opportunity, but it's not there. I actually think he might be the rookie that takes that step forward with Caleb. And Keenan Allen is that safety net. Not even going to say he's going to get injured because that's not what I'm going to say here. It's more so that it's the ADP where he's going to go a little bit too high, and people are going to expect him to have those 100 catches, and it's not going to be feasible. But he'll have a good year. It's just not going to be the years we used to see out of Keenan.
Traditional. Yeah. Okay. I mean, if that's the justification, then I don't mind it.
Yeah. Believe me, he's not going to be like a guy I'm going to be, oh, he sucked. No, the production's still there. He literally carried the Chargers until he got hurt.
Yeah, I would also prefer that we start integrating Rome. Like, that was the 9th pick in the draft here. That was the 9th pick.
Draft capital's there, and if I think by like week 8, if you don't see Rome making that next step, that means Keenan Allen is really took off with DJ Moore too.
He's having a good year. Yeah, I like it. So my bust is going to be a wide receiver. I'm thinking Stephon Diggs on Houston. A lot of mouths to feed. 30, 31, 32. I think he's 32. 32-year-old receiver. Tank's going to be your guy. Like, Tank and Nico are your guys. We saw that last year. I think he's just going to complement. In terms of fantasy, I think he's going to be essentially irrelevant out of maybe he has a game where he has 2-3 touchdowns because they're just not covering his ass because they're covering Nico or Tank or Schultz. And I think, you had made that before we got on air, you made the correlation to last year, DeAndre Hopkins. And I think that's a prime comparison of what kind of year that Diggs is going to have. But in terms of like his typical fantasy production that he's put up for the last however many years now, no, I think it's done. To be quite honest, I think the career of Stephon Diggs is.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not, because I love watching Diggs out there. He's one of my favorites to watch, and it's possible, but I think the Texans are still going to throw the hell out of the ball.
Yep,
regardless of bringing Mixon in. I don't know how their line is this year, but I don't think it changed much this offseason. So, but I mean, based off of that, hopefully nobody's drafting him too high. I think everyone forgot about Tank Dell, to be honest. I think he's
why. Because he got shot? No.
He got hurt. I think he gets a recency bias where he got hurt and he just wasn't out there like, Collins was. But, I mean, Collins got paid. So it's going to be – there's a lot of mouths to feed there for sure. And then it's not like Mixon can't catch it out of the backfield, or even Dameon Pierce. Why not? It's not like he's going to be good. Just he's a backup.
1 year wonder. Like, damn, bro.
How many stocks did I have in him? Because we knew where that was coming. Yeah. All right, let's touch on tight ends. So for my sleeper tight end, I have Cade Otton from Tampa Bay. Reason being, you do too? I love it because I think there's no reason he can't like have that like sneaky top 12 fringe player. Like, a lot has to go right for him. But I think a second year with Baker at the helm, why not? They're going to throw the ball. I think, you can make the argument that offense as a whole will be a lot more well-rounded because they didn't bring in Bucky Irving for no reason either. So, he's going to eat away at, White's production. But when we're talking about the receiving end of the field, he's got the middle of the field, and he had opportunities with Brady, and he either dropped it or Brady favored Godwin. But I mean, you have Mr. 1000 with Mike Evans on the outside. So a lot of target, a lot of people are going to try to I don't want to say double, but they're taking away Evans. Okay. Godwin drops a couple balls. Otton's right there. So.
And I think previously, historically, that OJ Howard was also, they were still trying to see if he had any, gas left in the tank. Not that he really ever did. Got drafted way too high out of Alabama, and then just never produced ever. Yeah. So I think that was a part of the deal as well. I think they were trying to see if they can tap into his potential. Didn't work. No. But I had Cade as well. Good call.
That's hilarious. Another guy that we could kind of throw in that sleeper category is Ben Sinnott from Washington. He's kind of he came out of Kansas State. He's a rookie this year. He's playing behind Zach Ertz. And if you've watched anything with Trey McBride in Arizona, when Ertz was there, he learned a lot from Ertz. McBride actually reminds me of a more athletic version of Ertz, if you remember Ertz's early years. But he has every opportunity to kind of take that step forward with Jaden Daniels too. Rookie wide receiver or rookie QB, and you have Scary Terry there. So it's just going to be another target to kind of feed out there.
I'm gonna go also for another sleeper. I'm thinking Noah Fant might make some buzz this year. This might be the year Noah actually, because again, another highly touted person, or another highly touted player out of tight end U, which would be Iowa.
Yes.
Didn't have a very successful tenure with the Broncos. Didn't necessarily have the best first couple of years in Seattle, but I'm thinking that offense is going to be a little more complete. If the wide receivers do, Metcalf, Lockett, JSN breaks out, I think that leaves a lot of room for Noah Fant to get some decent targets and maybe some red zone tutties. But just on the radar.
Absolutely. That's a good one. That's a good one to think about. All right. My breakout tight end this year, Dalton Kincaid out of Buffalo. Exo facto, he is the guy there. We're going to see the next decade of just great tight end play with Josh Allen being an elite QB. He had a great year last year, given that Diggs, Gabe Davis, Knox was eating away at it. But those fantasy games that Knox wasn't there, Kincaid went off for 20-something points a week.
Yep.
That's how you win. I mean, if your tight end's putting up 20, 25, it's like a cheat code out there, especially if you have a decent squad. It's another team. That's another spot you have to almost build around too, depending on if it's a tight end premium.
So I had Kincaid as well as my first one. I have two others. I got two others.
Yes. Don't worry.
I'm thinking Cole Kmet might have a really nice year as well. Just because there's so many options on offense. If Caleb can appropriately mix in Cole Kmet and get him his targets, that's just going to open up DJ. That's going to open up the running game. That's going to open up because Cole Kmet is a receiving tight end. I think we've seen him block a lot. Seen him block a lot on the Bears when they're fucking the Bears. But he is a receiving tight end. And then last year, we kind of saw those glimpses. He was having touchdown games, multiple touchdown games for the first time in his career with Justin Fields. So I think he could also be one. And then lastly, and I just hope this for all the fantasy managers out there, like it's been years. It's been years. It hurts your heart. Maybe you know where I'm going with this. Kyle Pitts. It's gonna be the year. Kyle finally can do it. Kurt is gonna get him his targets finally, and I think Kyle Pitts out of Florida, top 5 pick 4 years ago now. I don't even know.
It's been so long.
Guy's almost probably 30.
For the managers that held on to him too, that is a great
Bless your heart.
I did want to add him into my breakout list because he is hard, but I didn't want to be that guy because I try to be a little bit different from the the crowd where everybody picks. Obviously Kincaid's not really that different, but
I was gonna say, Kincaid's part of the.
I know, but a lot of the analysts are really talking on Kyle Pitts this year, and he has every opportunity, especially given what Kirk did for TJ Hawkinson. There's no reason
that scares me, by the way. That one scares me.
Well, Sam, you got Broadway Sam still there, and then you got JJ McCarthy and rookie QBs feed their tight ends. I mean, granted, Hawk is coming off that the ACL, so I mean, if he's ready by week 4, week 5, it's going to be fine. But that's the weird thing with tight ends, though, is that especially if it's a veteran tight end, they'll get open and they'll be that safety net. That's why I put Benson out there. Even you could even throw Zach Ertz for the 5 games.
So you're putting Ben Sinnott over Brock Bowers.
As a deep sleeper, yeah. As a sleeper, yeah. I would argue that Jaden Daniels is better than Aiden O'Connell or Gardner
of
Minshew.
course.
So once again, that's another one. I didn't want to just pick a sleeper where it was like, okay, Brock Bowers, oh, okay, you got him, you got Pitts, so good thumbs up. I'm not gonna, I'm like the route I'm going with these. I'm trying to be a little bit different and provide that, if you don't get the Pitts and you don't just sit there and be like, oh, I have nobody. I just have to stream tight end.
Sure. Yeah.
But now that you brought him up, I think there's he's the generational talent at tight end with Brock Bowers. And you could have made the argument during rookie drafts that he really should have been the second guy off the board behind Marvin. Behind Marvin. I know we're rocking the Caleb jerseys, but he's the most talented player out there outside of MHJ. His floor is going to be limited just because he does have to deal with who's the tight end that they had last year, Max Meyer. He's out of
Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame.
Mayer. Yeah, Max Meyer's a baseball player. That's why I'm getting that mixed up. Anyway, yeah, he's still going to be out there, and yeah, we could play the devil's advocate and be like 2 tight end sets are going to leave them both open.
It should be the Knox and Kincaid comparison is how I'm seeing it. Where Bowers is going to be in the slot like Kincaid was in the slot primarily, and then, Mayer, Knox. So,
yeah, Gardner does throw the tight end because in the small sample size, Jelani Woods, too, from Indianapolis, before he got hurt last year, he looked decent, too. So, there's plenty of good tight ends that you can get. Now, some of those ones that we mentioned, they're not going to finish as your tight end one. A lot has to go right for them, but those will be guys that could help propel you in the right direction if you do have a good foundation to build around, too. Also, good tight end 2, tight end 3. Stash them on your bench. Moving on to busts. My bust is David Njoku. Everybody's also really high on him. He's getting highly drafted. A lot of the analysts are talking about how he's just going to continue to ascend. People tend to forget his good year last year wasn't with Deshaun Watson. And what does Deshaun Watson have?
It was with Flacco, right?
Flacco. It was
at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, he had a terrible start to the year. If I went back and pulled tape, we could easily look and see, hey, like, what happened?
He couldn't produce with Baker. He had multiple years where, all right, OBJ's on this side, Jarvis on that side, backfield's loaded. You should be able to get targets and the guy was dropping balls, running shit routes.
If this is what we're seeing now and he ascends, great. I just don't personally see it. He's ultra athletic. He burned his face off with some fireworks. If you remember that too, he wore the mask to the game.
Jesus Christ, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's why he wore a mask to the one game, because he literally charred his face off. Maybe it was his grill. It was something stupid. I'm like, oh my god.
Jason Pierre-Paul.
yeah. He didn't miss a game either, I don't think. That's my only worry though, is that he scored those 16.4 PPR points in his last 4 games, but it was with Flacco, and Watson just looked like shit the entire year. Now, if Watson's healthy, we could see, but we haven't seen Watson be relevant in 5 years.
That's the Michael Jordan of football, according to Dabo Sweeney. He came out and said that in 2017 during the draft, right prior to the draft. They're like, that's the Michael Jordan of football. You need to draft that guy.
He was really
the
good.
Bears still chose fucking goddamn Mitch Trubisky.
Would you rather have drafted Mitch and end up where we're at now with Caleb and Justin Fields prior to that?
But we don't know that.
Or end up with Deshaun Watson in his situation?
Sure. I would obviously take wearing this right now in 2024 than wearing a goddamn Deshaun Watson. I'm going to fucking get my dick massaged all the time. Oh, God. Weird guy.
So bad. Hopefully I know you drafted him in our startup league too. I thought it was a little early too. I was like, I just didn't want to say it. I was like, it's early, but if the rest of your team in that league is fine, but
I'm banking on this is the year that he actually has some production and like
Yeah,
does good. It hasn't happened since he was on the Texans, but I'm banking on it happening.
yeah,
So
it's possible.
putting
I mean,
blind faith out there,
if he throws it in Njoku, he could.
or Amari Cooper.
Cooper too. Yeah, you could. Cooper. All right, hit me with your bust for tight end.
I think you know what? It's not even just the tight end. The whole team's gonna fucking bust. It's the goddamn Dallas Cowboys. They're trash. Dak is trash. The running back, they brought Zeke back. I don't know what we're doing. He literally looks like he's a grandpa in training camp right now. If you see some videos, he's literally like holding his back as he's doing drills. Like that ain't it, Chief. Um, but I think the tight end is Jake Ferguson. He was a Pro Bowler last year. I don't think he's going to mimic that type of production again. I just think the whole team is going to take a downward slide. Then the whole state of Texas, or at least in Dallas, is going to be calling for Dak Prescott to get traded and Jerry to start doing all sorts of things, fire the coach, like Mike McCarthy, go sit down. But Jake Ferguson, I just don't think he's going to do as well as he did last year. I also don't think CD is going to do as well as last year. But that is going to be my bust is Jake Ferguson.
So, a couple of things I'll give you because I did actually have Ferguson as a sleeper for myself before, but I changed it because I knew you were going with the bust for him. So, some notes. No tight end actually saw more red zone targets than Jake Ferguson with 24 last season. No team attempted more passes in the red zone than the Cowboys. So that also feeds into your point who the running back is now. Rico Dowdle and Zeke. So they're going to throw the ball. The offense, who did they add this offseason outside of Zeke?
Nobody. Well, they have Deuce. They still have Deuce Vaughn, who will never play.
No, but they didn't add anybody outside of like Brandon Cooks.
Pollard went to the Pollard went to the Titans, who maybe could be a sleeper if we're thinking about it.
I think Dan picked Tajay Spears as his sleeper.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, why not?
Kind of like that. Yeah,
RB15 range. I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean, he's realistically Ferguson could be the number 2 weapon in Dallas, and Dak loves throwing to his tight ends because if you remember, old man Jason Witten also did that, and he's also had 10 touchdowns. So, touchdowns are there, so he'll get the production out of that. But I could see, to your point, I can see the Cowboys kind of taking that downward spiral. Obviously to repeat as the wide receiver 1, it would be very difficult for CD Lamb. But last year, I think Dak also is another player, as I mentioned before the podcast with Bill Belichick, where everybody, like, he's gone, but the Patriots still have that bad taste in their mouth. If you go back, I think Dak Prescott finished second in fantasy points in our format too last year, only behind Josh Allen.
Wow, I don't see. I'm not
tough.
a Dak guy. I'm clearly biased.
Yeah, I mean it's tough for sure but I mean if he's on the field, he's good. I mean, he had 36 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 23 the year before, and then 37 and 21. So if we're playing every other year, it's possible, but yeah. Dallas is just a mess. Don't they still have the Giants in their division? Washington.
Giants are a mess. Malik Neighbors is going to be great. Hopefully he gets his. But as far as the team goes, hot dog water.
Yeah. Bring him back up too before we close out. Let me see if I have it. Just looking back at some of these numbers too that like tight ends have put up. Or not tight ends, wide receivers have put up in the past classes. Some big names are on these lists too. I can't find it. It's really annoying that I can't find exactly what I'm looking for. Anyway, do you think that this class will be the greatest wide receiver class we've had in the last 5 years?
It has the potential. The names are there. Right, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Rome. I think, honestly, we shouldn't focus on the wide receiver class as so much we should focus on the QB class. because 6 QBs went in the first 13 picks. So that needs to be kind of like, we should be monitoring the QBs in this class opposed to the wide receivers, I think. Because I think Marvin's going to be great. I think Malik's going to be great. I think Rome's going to be great. Those aren't really questions in my mind, but a question is Michael Penix. Question is Bo Nix. A question is JJ McCarthy. Jaden's not a question. Drake May is a question. Caleb's not a question. So there's a lot to kind of see how this is going to pan out in the future.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting because next year's class too isn't as strong at QB. I mean, there's some names, but this was the class to go get your QB if we're talking fantasy too. And like, I don't know, next year's class kind of feels very 2021-ish, where it was like, oh, Kenny Pickett's there. I mean, yeah, if you get,
and then we're gonna reach on Kenny Pickett, yeah.
It's going to be a lot of reaches. Shadir Sanders, he's going to put together numbers. He'll probably be a new Oakland Raider.
Well, that's what I was just going to say, is that the Raiders are the team that is prime. They need a quarterback next year in that draft, and there's only going to be very few. What would you imagine if, like, the Raiders, granted, maybe they lose out and they get 1-1, but if they traded up to ensure that they got Shadir Sanders, that would be quite something in my mind.
Yeah,
that team would be something.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Are my Jets going to trade for Devontae Adams?
I hope not.
Yeah,
I hope you don't give up your life like that, or your capital,
I think it would be like if I'm.
What would they give up to get him? What do you think?
I think that's exactly where I was going. I think you give them a second and a fourth, and I think that gets it done.
Okay. I don't know if that gets it done, but
I mean, I would be okay giving up a first. If you told me I had to give up a first and like a fifth round conditional or something like that, could go up to a fourth, I'm fine with it, knowing that you bring back Rodgers and Tay, you have Wilson out there. And I mean, because in my mind too, if you're doing that, that means that Mike Williams is hurt and he's out the rest.
Shit the bed. Yeah, I agree. And like Malachi Corley's great and all, but like that's actually he's going to be relatively irrelevant this season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see more out of Braylon Allen, to be honest with you, just given the state of like, and not because I'm saying Brees is going to get hurt. I just think they're going to be smart. And they're going to be like, hey, as long as Allen doesn't fumble, which I don't think he has fumble history, which is good. And it's not going to be a goal line thing. I think he's that change of pace back where Brees gets a breather and we send in the dogs.
What a great fourth round pick too, by the way.
Can we talk about Joe Douglas though? Like Joe Douglas, the GM for the Jets, look at all of his good picks. He's made a lot of great picks. Like he had the offense and defensive player of the year, rookie of the year.
That's right. Yes.
So you had Sauce and you had Garrett. Brees Hall was a second round pick, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And then like I don't know, all the like defensive players too. Jermaine Johnson has been awesome too. We're seeing all these players take these next step forwards. So. And he brought Rodgers in, so he's done everything. This is on Salah now, so moving into like a little prediction for the year. If Rodgers is there, it's Super Bowl or bust. Realistically though, you have to play through Kansas City, of course, with Mahomes. They're always going to be the favorite as long as he's on that team, with Andy Reid at least.
Sure. Yeah.
And then your second team, you have to play through Cincinnati. If Burrow's out there too. You have to play through them. And then you could make the argument that Baltimore is still better. Because
even the Dolphins. I mean,
Tua can't throw in cold. So by December, they're screwed.
Sure.
Honestly, and I hate to say it because I have a couple shares of it where I have the Tua Tyreek stack, but get me the hell out of having those guys because you have to face the Jets twice. So Sauce and company shut them down. They don't allow many passing yards in general. And they play them during the playoffs too, like fantasy playoffs too. But
yeah.
I mean, Dolphins, they're hit or miss, but I think with a healthy Jets team, or even just if Rodgers is out there, they play a lot better. They're the fourth best team in the AFC right now.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
that's ahead of the Texans. And Texans did a lot this offseason, but I still think the Jets defense carries them.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know if the Texans defense. Well, no, Will Anderson had a great year last year, actually.
And then they just
Um,
put Daniil Hunter on the outside of him. So,
right, I forgot about
and they
that.
do have a
That's
good
nasty.
secondary, like Jalen Petrie, and
The
then
linebackers are nice as well.
yeah. So like they have the quality. It's just I'm still gonna take my like and
Petrie,
number.
Single,
Who was the guy who
Stingley,
was
Derek Stingley,
Stingley? Yeah,
Chris Harris or Christian Harris at linebacker is really nice as well.
yeah,
Like that team is just so. I'm happy for those fans. They got fucked around for many years. So
yeah. They did. Anthony Richardson too. With if he plays a full season, do you know he had just as many QB1 weeks as CJ Stroud in like 11 less games?
no, damn.
Just firing out little fantasy tidbits there, but it's insane. Like what he could be. He's a bigger version and probably stronger version of Lamar.
Oh, well, of course he is. I mean, yeah, I mean, he's massive.
Yeah.
6'5", 240, running the 4.4. Like that was, those were all the intangibles that everybody was raving about last year, when he was coming, out of the draft. And we already knew this because we had seen him play at Florida.
Right.
And so, obviously the rotator cuff surgery, set him back a little bit. But if that guy can throw the ball to Mitchell and Josh Downs replicates his 800 yards, I don't see him breaking out personally. But if he can replicate that and then JT does his thing, the Colts would be really nice too.
Yeah, I mean, you forgot our other wide receiver, alumni too.
Pitts. Yeah, Michael Pitts.
But I did appreciate that you mentioned Josh Downs because that's another guy that last year I was super high on getting him in the third round. It's just he fell apart with not having steady QB play. But Josh Downs gonna be good. So yeah, I'm super excited for football to come back. I'm so tired of watching baseball right now. I'll be honest with you.
I'm over it. Judge, you can hit all the home runs you want. Like that's great. Ohtani, but like it's just we need football. The Sox have lost like 40 games in a row.
We're
I don't
at
even.
20. I think.
Yeah, it's still going.
Yeah, it's still
going.
Yeah.
They broke their record that they set in June that they lost 14 in a row, and it's like in July they started a new one. Like sell the fucking team.
Yeah, they still haven't fired Pedro though either.
They won't. No.
Jerry never fires managers mid-year or.
You sent me that thing from AJ. Yeah, AJ talking about how he's never done it historically. He doesn't anticipate that he's going to do it. Bad business. Don't know what to tell you. Like I am so disappointed in how the last 4 or 5 years have shaped up for the White Sox for what they should have been. Eloy, good. Go to Baltimore. You're not going to play there, buddy.
No. DH.
I know Ozzie Guillen was so excited that he was gone.
God. So Ryan McGuffey too. Did you watch? I think I sent you that clip. But
you did.
They went off on it. McGuffey got a ton of like blowback from some of the fans being like, well, he's a person. I'm like, stop hugging trees. He was supposed to be a top elite player.
Yep.
We went through this and he had one good year, arguably, where he stayed relatively healthy and he was on the field and he was awesome. We were talking about 40 to 50 home runs a year.
Yes, no, I know. I trust me.
Yeah, I know you know because you heard it enough times.
It's just upset. It's so upsetting. Like, at least I got my World Series out of it in 16 before we shit the bed. Like you didn't get anything out of this deal. You made all you had the prospects. You brought them up at the same time. Everything was looking good. You brought in the coach La Russa. You're like, this is the guy who's going to seal the deal, and then it just literally blew up so badly. Like I've never seen like a fucking fall that hard, honestly.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about the Orioles right now because that's where your team was. All those young studs were up there playing. They were playing really good, and I'm just wondering, like what's going to happen with the Orioles because they're a really fun team to watch, just like the Sox were. But just poor management, really, honestly.
It falls on Rick Hahn. It falls on Jerry Reinsdorf. It falls on Kenny Williams. They put us in the situation.
Yeah.
What's your? I know you're kind of removed from baseball a little bit, but the Sox not moving Robert or Crochet. If they build around Crochet, do you think that's a smart move, or do you try to trade him this offseason? Because in my opinion, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So I mean, I think we gotta like pitch for Crochet. I think his value is going to be up there. I think they can really get some really good prospects for him. And I guess you just trade him and start over. I don't even know, Jeffrey, because like you guys did start over once and you did well, but it didn't matter in the end. So like, why would you even be optimistic about like trading him or Robert? Robert's still on a very friendly contract, so I'm assuming people are going to start calling for him and being like, "Hey, man,
they were
8 for 88. That's a nice deal. We'll take him off your hands. We'll throw you a couple of prospects in return." And maybe that's not bad because Robert has an injury history as well.
I think that they gave up though.
Say again.
I think Robert and just basically the whole rest of the team kind of gave up. I think they basically told Grifol to go fuck himself. Essentially, I think if you extend Crochet and you build around him and Robert, because you need to build around something. You can't just rely on prospects.
No, yeah, you got to have something.
I think you throw Crochet one of those 4-year deals, and hopefully he stays healthy. Jerry never does it, so I don't have much hope. But like they don't have anything in the system hitter wise where you could say, okay, they have guys coming.
Colson Montgomery's coming, but like
look at his numbers in AAA. It's not great. It's not
really.
No, it's not great. They're kind of flirting with putting Brooks Baldwin up there. He's like a 23-year-old now that's been really solid. He made the jump from like AA to the MLB. Their pitching staff is what's going to be kind of carrying the Sox in future years. We've seen the names of Cannon and Drew Thorpe come up.
Thorpe.
They have like so many different guys in AA right now. Noah Schultz is a guy that you want to, write down on a post-it note and stick in like 2 years from now, probably next year, to be honest, that he'll be up because he's tearing it up. Another big lefty. And then they just keep drafting quality arms. So, if they can somehow, I hate to say it, but go out this offseason and try to, I'm not even optimistic about it, but if you can get some quality players to build around, but I don't believe in this team at all. So
I don't believe in the Cubs right now either. So there's that. I got Miguel Amaya behind the plate. We're just going to leave it there.
Yeah.
Can't throw anybody out. Can't even throw the ball down to second base, but
no, I did see that they did get Isaac Paredes from Tampa Bay.
Yeah, which he was an all-star, but again, I don't give a fuck.
I mean, it doesn't make the team better. I mean, it's just like
no, that's my thing. Is that it doesn't make the team better. It really doesn't. Like, I know you sit there, you look at it objectively, and you're like, well, you're getting an all-star. Your team is better. Yeah, okay, we get it. But in reality, team's not better.
No. So, I think we should cut it off there. We did our football talk. Football is almost back. The best time of the year is coming, fall.
Stop, baby. I can't wait to hear that voice. Oh.
Pumpkin spice. You got Scott Hansen on the tube. And then, go from there. You open the windows a little bit because you got a little chill.
Yeah, that fall weather start coming in.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. So, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Till next time, yep.